Today, we've got an exciting and slightly wild science story, right, Debbie?
That's right. It's something straight out of some kind of a fantasy story or maybe even a superhero movie.
And it involves wolves.
Wolves, exactly.
Yeah.
We're talking about the dire wolf on this episode. If you don't know what a dire wolf is, maybe you can ask your parents. They must have been watching this show called Game of Thrones. But if not, we will go into it in just a little bit.
So, what about dire wolves? I mean, what's special? Why are we talking about it in this episode?
Dire wolves were basically these gigantic wolves that used to exist thousands and thousands of years ago. They went I think extinct around 10,000 years ago or so, they believe.
Yep. And when
so
you say
imagine,
gigantic, you can imagine them being like almost the size of a child, right? They'd come super tall.
Wolves in the wild are, bigger than your average dogs.
Yeah. Did you know
So these wolves are
dogs
much
come
bigger.
from wolves?
Yes, I did. They belong to the same family. Yes, I did. And I think most of our listeners know this already. So that's the news story we're covering today. This company called Colossal Biosciences has basically said that they have brought this wolf, the dire wolf, back from extinction. It's called De-Extinction, right? They said that this wolf did not exist. 10,000 years ago, they disappeared from the planet, but they have figured out a way to bring them back. But is this really true? For us to understand that, let's first talk about what exactly de-extinction means, right? Like we said, when something has gone, like lots of animals do not exist anymore. For example, the woolly mammoth.
Or
I'm
the
sure
dodo.
a lot of you, or the dodo, the bird dodo, for example. All of these animals are extinct, and there are countless others that have gone extinct and continue to go
Dinosaurs.
extinct even today. Dinosaurs, I would put them in a separate category, but yeah, sure, dinosaurs are extinct as well.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the reason is different, but yeah, they're all
Yes.
extinct, right?
that's true. And de-extinction is basically when scientists try to bring these species back, and they do this by using DNA. Now, what is DNA? Kiran, you want to take a shot at explaining what that is?
Yeah, so DNA, I think, is like the instruction manual to the body or to the human being or to the animal, saying what it should look like, what it should be, how tall, what color eyes, what color hair, what's the body structure. Everything is defined by the DNA, right?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Yes.
What? Deoxyribonucleic acid. Yes.
Ribonucleic acid.
Excellent.
That's right.
That's
It is.
yeah.
it's a molecule that carries all the instructions that tell our body how to develop and grow, and what it's going to be like, what it's going to look like, what it's going to sound like. So many things, right? The DNA
every
determines.
part of our body is made up of DNA, right? So even a tooth, even a bone fragment, everything has our DNA in it. And I think that's what they're basically using to bring back dire wolves, because this company actually used DNA from dire wolves' teeth and bones that they found in, icy fossils. And obviously this DNA is also tens of thousands of years old, right? Because that's when the wolves existed, the dire wolves. And so they've kind of picked up the DNA to understand how that dire wolf was built. What made a dire wolf a dire wolf?
If our listeners have watched Jurassic Park, then you know exactly how this works. You saw them do it, where they picked out the mosquito and they picked out DNA from the mosquito and they brought the dinosaurs back.
But that's a little bit of a far-fetch, apparently. From the mosquito is apparently far-fetched. Here it was directly from the teeth and bones of the dire wolf.
Yeah. But the thing here is it really a dire wolf that they've brought back? And that is the real question that we should all be asking, right? And exploring further. Just because you've found some DNA and you've tried to recreate, you haven't actually brought the dire wolf back, because you need a lot more information to get the exact same animal back.
Yeah.
right? So what have they done? They took some of the DNA and then they took, the regular grey wolf, because they were like, okay, we have no idea what the real dire wolf actually was. We just have bits and pieces. So we'll use another animal that's as close to the dire wolf as possible, which is the
Yep.
grey wolf, which
Yep.
exists in today's world. So it took the regular grey wolf embryo and they changed some of its genes to make it match the dire wolf DNA. Okay, they took some information from the dire wolf DNA, put it into the grey wolf embryo, and then they put all of this into a regular domestic dog, like, or a regular pet dog. They put it into her so she could have these puppies, and she gave birth to 3 puppies. Their names are Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi. And said that these are as close to the dire wolf as they can get in today's world.
Yeah. And in fact, if
So
you
not
think about
really a dire wolf.
what they did was, think about it. You had a puzzle set. A couple of pieces were missing, but you really wanted to complete that puzzle. So you looked at a couple of other sets and you saw 2 pieces that may somewhat fit. And so you just took that and placed it in to complete your puzzle, right? That's exactly what they've done with the DNA. They've actually
That's
borrowed a couple of puzzle pieces from another set to make this work, and hoping that
The
people
difference
won't
here,
see
though-
it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? A lot of people were saying that the headlines were very misleading, right? Because at the end of the day, there are millions of differences. We are talking about millions of differences between the dire wolf and grey wolf. So they are more like hybrids. What is a hybrid? A hybrid is basically a mix of 2 things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So multiple things mixed together to make a hybrid.
But the thing
And
is, this
so-
is not the first animal that they've done this for. This company actually did one which was bringing the woolly mammoth genes, and they put the woolly mammoth genes into rats. And so when the rats were born, the rats were furry like a woolly
Yeah,
mammoth.
I saw those pictures.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
cool. I mean, again, it's obviously
Yeah.
not a woolly mammoth because it's a rat, but they used some of the genes of the woolly mammoth and added it into the rat. So yeah, it's interesting. I think it's very interesting from a science perspective because, you can do so much more with all of this, understanding how genes work, understanding how DNA works, understanding how, living beings are built, from
Yeah.
from a biological perspective, how they're built, I think is interesting. And who knows where it can go, right? Because that's also one of the big concerns. Where will this go
Yeah.
if they're bringing back extinct animals? Maybe can we help animals that are getting extinct, but we still have a few of right now?
The scientists at the Colossal Biosciences is basically saying that their goal is to help save these endangered animals, like you're saying. Like, they,
Yeah.
if we learn how to work with the DNA, we can always, save these animals. But a lot of people are actually a little worried about this because they're saying, hey, you know what? Science is great and having a way to save endangered animals is fine. But why don't we actually do something to stop them from going extinct in the first place? And that is something we can control, right? And
Yeah.
it basically means, ensuring that we are paying more attention to climate change, we're paying more attention to pollution levels. All of these things are what are affecting the environments that animals thrive in, right? And animals can live in. And if you stop attacking the planet, maybe these animals will not be endangered in the first place.
Yeah.
A lot of animals are hunted. For example, the tiger, elephants, they are poachers, go into their habitat, go into these forests, and they actually hunt them down. And that is what's also endangering their lives,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
maybe we need to start doing these things, which are far easier. I mean, well, not easier to achieve. I wouldn't say it's easy. It's extremely difficult. But
Try and
let's all
save what
start
we
working
have
towards
today.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Rather than
exactly.
trying to recreate what we had many, many, many years ago. Because also the problem is, and it's a real problem. Dire wolves lived 10,000 years ago when the world was very, very different. How
yeah.
will they actually survive and, be able to adapt to the current world, which is full of pollution and, machines? And when dire wolves were there was nothing. They were barely humans, right? I mean, there
And
weren't
we
towns
know
and-
nothing about them.
Exactly. So I think that's also the bigger problem is them to an age which is very different from how they survived and when they survived. It creates a lot of those problems as well. Will they be able to thrive as like 10,000 years ago? Maybe not, right? So I think that's also the problem. I mean, you bring a woolly mammoth back to life today. Will that woolly mammoth go and kill all elephants? Who knows, right? And then
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
elephants get extinct if we actually were to kind of bring in woolly mammoths? No one knows,
Yeah.
right? So, and I think that is the fundamental problem with bringing back stuff that you have no idea about.
Exactly. I mean, that's why so many people have called this like a Trojan horse. A Trojan horse basically means, I mean, it's from this story, which you can look up. It's very interesting. A horse, a wooden horse, which had soldiers hiding inside. So basically, it looks like something on the outside and is something else on the inside. So are you really opening up a big box of trouble when you bring dire wolves back? Because, A, we don't know anything about these animals. They have never been in these environments, in these conditions. And they are, I mean, think about it this way, they are an apex predator. And we know what happened in Jurassic Park. If you've watched that movie, we don't know, absolutely don't know how to deal with these kind of creatures, right?
Yeah.
So scientific advancement is important, but there's always need for us to think about our responsibility. Are we doing the right thing? Are we weighing all the pros and cons, and only then moving forward, right? So very interesting story, and obviously a great step for understanding animals and understanding DNA, understanding genetic code and all of those things. But
how did life come about? It's very
carefully.
interesting from that perspective, right? It gives you a lot of insight into how life came about, how evolution happened, all of that. But hopefully it's in a measured way that this is done, and companies don't go berserk and start bringing back random animals and creatures to life. And who knows? Let's wait and see. I don't know. Would that be interesting?
Thinking they always have a backup plan. Like, even if animals go extinct, no biggie, we can always bring them back.
Correct.
And that is not the way we should be thinking about this at all.
Not at all.
Speaking of life, before we go, we're going to wrap up this episode very quickly. But before we go, the latest news, by the way, has been that a team of researchers or astronomers have actually found this one massive planet called the K2-18b, and they believe that it could have
whole
life on it. Yeah.
But life doesn't
Isn't
mean
that
humans,
exciting?
right? It doesn't even mean that. It just means bacterial life is also life, right? So it'd be at a microscopic level, but even that is life. But I actually don't know.
Or it could be a far more advanced
could be
group
all
of
the movies coming
beings.
true. Oh my God. We need to research this a little bit more to see what kind of life they actually found on that K2-18b.
No, they believe it's algae. At this point, whatever they can tell, they really don't have enough information, and obviously the story is developing. But it's the first indication that there could be something similar out there on this planet, which is not part of the solar system, by the way. So it's a fantastic story that we will be following, and you can be sure we will tell you more about it as soon as we know it. What a great episode this has been, Kiran. We've talked about
science. I love
dinosaurs,
science stories. Yeah.
Mammoths, wolves, and aliens. It's a very, very cool episode. On that note, we will be getting into our quiz question for this episode.
Time. Yes.
Yay!
What's the quiz? It obviously has something to do with the direwolf.
Of course. And again, it's about making sure that you've been listening and you've been paying attention to what we've been telling you. Very good. But you don't get to answer the question, Kiran.
What?
No.
Okay.
It's for our listeners. Remember, because the correct answer, the person who gives us correct answer gets to win a gift voucher from Takaro Kids. So
Man, I want a
listen
gift
carefully. Okay, then you need to stop hosting Takaro Kids and become a listener. Are you okay with that?
Okay.
Cool. Here's your quiz question. Which of these is true about the new wolf pups that the scientists have made? A. They are real dire wolves from the Ice Age. B. They are regular puppies but with superpowers. Power pups?
Power pups.
C. They are grey wolves with some dire wolf genes.
Are they
Which is the
dire
correct
wolves with some grey wolf genes?
Okay, that's D. Do not confuse our listeners. I'm going to repeat. A. They are real dire wolves from the Ice Age. B. They are regular puppies with superpowers. C. They are grey wolves with some dire wolf genes. Or D. They are dire wolves with some grey wolf genes.
Okay, excellent. So you know the drill. Go in, send in your answers to takarokids.com or on Instagram. Have your parents message us the answer, and one lucky winner will get a gift voucher and a shout out from us in the next episode. Until next week, this is Kiran signing off.
And this is Deepkanya saying goodbye.
Bye bye.